Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Sanjeev Thukral, the founder of NeurIOT Labs, a startup using AI and IoT methods to turn complex enterprise data into actionable insight for users. But before we dive into more about this company, I want to take it back to where it all began. I actually grew up in a family and community where technology was the center and focus of our lives. And I guess that's how I grew up loving the field of STEM. But Mr. Thukral, can you take us back to your early days in India? Like, what was your childhood like, and were there any challenges or experiences that shaped your path towards tech?
Absolutely. So yeah, so like yourself, I was born and brought up in a very tech focused environment. It was a small industrial town close to New Delhi. It almost smelled like machines and factories wherever we went. You know, on top of that, my dad was a auto parts manufacturer. So actually, I've had very fond memories of my childhood playing a lot, of different sports with my school and neighborhood kids. Our house was close to a village, and we would at times play with these rural kids, who were great at playing, sports like marbles and, anything which dealt with physics and mechanical engineering. And then, my greatest influence has been my parents. My mom is a mathematician. When I was very small, she would take me to the school as a 4-year kid. I was sitting in classroom of grade 10 students, and overhearing her teach number theory and linear algebra. I think that may have had a strong influence for me for mathematics. She also taught me Vedic mathematics as a kid. It's an ancient science of calculating very fast using some very cool tricks. My dad has a very strong engineering background from his auto parts manufacturing business. So he would bring discarded vernier calipers, micrometers, and as if those are my toys. Now, I never used a calculator until I was 18, and I joined the
Wow.
engineering school. That's the first time I actually saw a calculator. So I would say that my childhood was probably perfect to inspire any school kid to become a tech freak. You know, I inspired to study engineering at one of the IITs, and I was lucky to be admitted in IIT Delhi. So 4 years of electrical engineering with some of the greatest minds, in this world actually instilled deep tech into my DNA, I would say.
Oh wow. Yeah, I was hearing from my dad about like how his schools also they weren't like as bad as like I've seen from like rural India parts. And yeah, it's pretty interesting. But now let's jump into NeurIOT Labs. Um, so for those who aren't familiar, could you explain what exactly the company does and what problem is it solving today?
Sure. So, as the name suggests, Near IoT is basically AI on the edge. I founded NeurIOT 8 years ago with the mission of solving some very challenging problems in the industry through AI and IoT. So that's the mission. So our foundation lies in four broad areas, I would say: classical machine learning, natural language processing, and GenAI, computer vision, and Internet of Things.
Mhm.
Uh, in the 8 years of our journey, we've probably executed more than 100 projects across industries such as health insurance, food and beverages, transportation logistics, energy and utilities, retail and e-commerce, and the government sector. If I were to just categorize these 100 plus projects, I can say broadly we have solved four industry problems. So either we are profiling some of our customers, key stakeholders, such as their customers, their suppliers, their employees, or anything or anybody that influences their business. We do that using unsupervised learning techniques or graph theory, or we are predicting their business outcomes, such as demand, supply, fraud, using supervised learning techniques, or we may be automating their business processes using Findout.AI, which is our suite of GenAI frameworks, or we make sense of video feeds using Vision B, which is our computer vision product built on top of the NVIDIA stack. So that's broadly what we do as NeurIOT.
Yeah, I was reading about Findout.AI and I thought it was pretty like cool how you could like have natural language queries over like a connected web of data. I mean that was like pretty interesting. Um, but yeah, could you explain a little bit more in depth of like those Findout.AI or like Vision B, like a little bit
Absolutely.
more technical?
Sure. So Findout.AI is a suite of generative AI and agentic AI frameworks. So it has the document AI capability, which can make sense of any visually rich document. So if you understand what any document looks like today, it has a title, it may have a picture,
Yeah,
it may have a table, it may have
yeah,
paragraphs. So as humans, first thing we have to do is we have to understand that document as to what the structure is. So Find Out AI applies VLMs to extract structures in the context of our customer's business, and then
okay.
it makes identifies those chunks which are useful for the customer's business, make them semantically searchable. It would do KIE encoding, and extract key value pairs to build very deep knowledge. You know, Now Find Out
Mm,
AI can also connect with business applications such as Oracle Apps and Salesforce, and
yeah.
through its agentic AI architecture, and brings that into the knowledge graph. Its audio variant actually goes into audio streaming data and can make it searchable. So all in all, Find Out AI is a platform which unlocks deep knowledge from enterprise data, whether it is structured or unstructured. Now, if we look
Oh
at
wow.
Vision B,
Yeah.
it's a computer vision device and a software. So it has its own computer vision pipeline and its own AI models. Uh, it it can basically extract information and knowledge from video feeds like metadata and link it to your other structured data forms. So if I were to just summarize, Find Out AI and Vision B's aim is to unlock deep enterprise knowledge for our enterprise customers from both unstructured and structured data forms in a highly secured environment. It's not like running a chat GPT. It's running in the customer's VPC, and so its power lies in actually the versatility, the business orientation, and its ability to secure customer data, and make sure that we still get the same kind of experience as ChatGPT in the enterprise setting.
So how are you able to like manage that much like data and information?
Well, that's a good question. When we talk about data that gets stored in today's AI-enabled solutions, so you either have to store semantically searchable data like hash maps, or vector data. So there are specific databases, which would
Okay.
store that kind of a data, or you are storing it in SQL or no SQL databases like MySQL or you know MongoDB. So those are the kind of databases you would store. But now that we have this concept of graph database and linked up data, right? So there are graph database packages like Neo4j, where we would store it. So it all depends on how we want to store our customer data. But within the find out framework, yes, we have the vector DB, we have the SQL DB, NoSQL DB, and the graph DB all there, linked up to each other to prepare or to have a deep knowledge of our enterprise customers' data. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Um, yeah, so like going away from like the technical side of this, I mean like now we're living in a time where basically like everything's AI powered. And a lot of companies are like jumping in on that. But what do you think about like do companies really need generative AI or are they just being sold something they don't like fully understand yet?
Well, that's a great question. I think in today's time, I would say enterprise AI is evolving at a phenomenal pace. I can see almost every company of any size, wanting to implement AI as part of their business. Now, but what's perplexing to me is the very slow rate at which it is actually being deployed, as if the trust is still lacking in operationalizing AI to manage their business process. I truly believe that most companies actually do need generative AI, but they will probably need people who understand it better, who can design their AI-enabled business for them, And I think so. There's a skill issue as well, and there's a mindset issue, which needs to change. It should not be like AI brings magic on one fine day. It has to be worked ground up, and then I think
Yeah.
it would be possible. I also feel that some good success stories of some of the early adopters will lead to AI adoption to skyrocket, which is I think something which is just about to happen, I would say anytime. And you might see it industry by industry or use case by use case, I can already see that happening.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and another thing I was curious about, like you mentioned, Findout.AI is like deployed in, or like a lot of your products are deployed in high stake sectors like insurance or healthcare. And like, how do you think about like the risk or bias associated with those AI systems being able to have an impact on like real people?
Uh, I think the quality and completeness of data does play a vital role in evolving AI landscape, and it's vital to have good quality data and complete data to avoid biases in AI models. But unfortunately, there is no magic wand, I would say, to solve this problem. Uh, all data that we see has regional bias, and it's natural that it will lead to models which will be biased. So in fact, I saw this very early on when I actually tried to deploy European deep tech solutions in India, way back in 2016. Now, as a rule of thumb, we need at least 10 times as many data points as there are features in the data set. But a lot of times we don't have that amount of data. So as data scientists and AI engineers, we try to ensure we have sufficient data that represents all the scenarios of the business process. And that's something any AI solution provider must ensure. And so it's important to look at any AI model's eval matrix, its scores, to be sure it's fit for business problem that is supposed to solve. Uh, so yeah, but I would say that any deployment that has happened, and it's not just us, but even from our client perspective, we have more than 100 successful deployments already. Our customers expect and they evaluate our solutions for these kind of biases already, and it does not go into production before, it has actually looked at those things. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people watching want to know the big question. How exactly did you build NeurIOT from scratch? Can you guide us through the process?
Sure. So, I used to work for a French company as a business leader 15 years ago. My job was to bring European solutions to the country. Uh, what I realized very early on was that these solutions, these deep tech solutions like fingerprint identification system or number plate recognition systems, they did
Yeah.
not for our country. India needed some homegrown applications and solutions that were built ground up from the local data.
All right.
Uh, 2016, actually, a good friend of mine who's a senior police officer in the middle part of our country, he invited me to solve crime using artificial intelligence. So we ended up building an AI solution which extracted modus operandi from first information report. If you know modus operandi is the mistake, you know. Uh, this actually laid the foundation for NeurIOT in 2017. Uh, then, I founded NeurIOT in 2017, middle of 2017, and very early on in this business. Another batchmate from IIT, who's right now a professor at Harvard Medical School, he invited me to be principal investigator in two research projects related to endocrinology. Now, this
Wow.
actually brought into healthcare, applied deep tech applied to the healthcare uh, space. We solved some two fantastic problems in the field of endocrinology. Uh, then again, in around 2019, another friend of mine who is right now director of IT at a very large health insurer in America,
Hmm.
he me to solve the problem of claims processing in health insurance. Now, this actually led to the first RAG framework that we implemented way back in 2020. Uh,
Okay.
2021, we were already uh, having a functional GenAI framework, which was solving insurance claims faster and better. Eventually, we
Hmm.
went to build this RAG framework, the generative AI framework called Findout.AI. And since then, we haven't really looked back. We've remained very committed to solving enterprise and industrial problems using AI and IoT, largely through Findout.AI and Vision B.
Wow. Yeah. So it's been a long journey then. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Finally, my last question. The other day, my friend was talking about building his own company, and I know we have like a lot of young listeners. So, what's one piece of advice you could give to an aspiring founder who wants to launch a meaningful tech company?
I'd say that you should have a definitely have a fantastic idea, which have a, it should be a narrow use case, but with a very big TAM. But then,
Okay.
everything also, depends on your execution plan. So you must have the right kind of execution plan. Definitely, you should have the conviction and you should enjoy what you do, and then just simply focus on the execution. Uh, Choose your partners well. You should have the same goals, the same aspirations, and then I think you should be able to do better. Very good.
Yeah, I love that. Mr. Thukral, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. It's been incredible having you on.
Well, thank you so much, Ansh. I enjoyed talking to you and look forward to a successful podcast for you. All right.
And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, drop your thoughts in the comments, leave a review, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode.